DreamWorks has a lot of franchises. Most of them are spun off of beloved and successful movies like Shrek, Kung Fu Panda and How to Train Your Dragon. All these IPs got popular right out of the gate, but there are movies that don't get that big right away, and even though they were successful, they don't become worldwide sensations and spawn a franchise and get tossed aside to make way for bigger successes to expand. But after a certain period of time, people will look back on it fondly and talk about it online and create a strong following behind it. Films like Shark Tale, Over the Hedge, and today's subject, Megamind, a film that was successful when it came out and got a solid reception, but it didn't quite hit with audiences and was quickly forgotten after it came out. That is until YouTubers like Shaft and 24 Frames of Nick started to review it and talk about what makes it a strong feature, and thus Megamind resurfaced in pop culture and even got the rare chance to make a comeback with a sequel and spin-off TV show. Unfortunately, this attempt to bring the IP back proved to be disappointing and unsuccessful, and after the TV show ended, the franchise disappeared and has not been talked about ever since, and no plans to expand it in any way. So what happened to this promising new franchise for DreamWorks? Well, let's talk about the slow death of the Megamind franchise. The idea for Megamind originated from an idea DreamWorks had in 2003 called Mastermind, which began as a live-action film to parody superheroes and villains and the tropes that come with. That didn't pan out for them, so they decided years later to turn it into an animated film and renamed it to Megamind. They tasked Madagascar director Tom McGrath to helm as well as Alan Schoolcraft and Brent Simons to write a revised script for the film. In 2010, Megamind was released, and it was a solid success, making over $300 million, and got decent reviews from both sides. While the film did good at the box office, DreamWorks didn't see fit to give it a sequel or a franchise and instead decided to move on to other projects like the Kung Fu Panda and How to Train Your Dragon sequel, and left it by the wayside, with the exception of the short film, Megamind and the Button of Doom, and normally, that would be the end of the IP. In the mid-2010s, though, Megamind started to become very prevalent and popular in meme culture, and film critics and YouTubers started to talk about it and what makes it special and unique compared to other superhero films and animated films. And because of the massive attention and popularity Megamind was getting, DreamWorks decided to bring the property back in the form of the straight-to-Peacock sequel, Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate, and the short-lived series, Megamind Rules. Originally titled Megamind's Guide to Protecting the City, it was set to focus on Megamind's heroic adventures after the film. However, the project started to shape into something else, and they decided to just do a traditional follow-up with some characters and concepts that were in the original script for the first movie that didn't work there, and used them as the main antagonists for the sequel. People were trepidatious with this new direction and were not pleased that most of the people behind the original, especially the voice cast, were not coming back for this film. In 2024, Megamind 2 and Megamind Rules debuted, and it couldn't have gone any worse. Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate was obliterated, hated and destroyed by everybody. They hated the animation of the film, the story and how the characters were represented, and felt that everything it did just spat in the face of the original and tarnished it completely. While it wasn't a flop since it wasn't a theatrical release, it was a colossal failure in strengthening the popularity of the IP, and even to this day, people despise this movie and think that anybody who has anything positive to say about it is a traitor to the original and to movies in general. It was the emoji movie of that time. The series came out after and lasted for 2 seasons, with the second bringing back Metro Man and concluding the story. While there was an idea that Megamind would get a proper theatrical sequel if the revival was a success, the backlash that it got killed any chance of future installments for this franchise and any extensions that DreamWorks was planning on giving it, and that's the end of the franchise. Ever since then, the IP faded into obscurity. Nobody talks about it, and people have moved on from the idea of Megamind ever getting a true follow-up, and thus concludes the run of Megamind's franchise. So why did this franchise never take off, and why did the character never get the sequel and franchise he truly deserved? Just like always, a desire motivated by money. The original film did not make the kind of money DreamWorks wanted. Their other 2 films that year, like How to Train Your Dragon, made over $400 million, and Shrek Forever After made over $700 million. DreamWorks was only interested in giving a film a sequel and franchise if they made the right amount of money, say like over $400 million, and Megamind failed to live up to that expectation, so DreamWorks decided to focus on How to Train Your Dragon, and the only reason Megamind even came back at all is because of the massive boom of popularity it got on YouTube. They didn't bring it back because they had a desire to continue the story or develop the characters. They saw a gold mine. Megamind was a valuable IP now, but they didn't feel confident to give it a proper theatrical sequel, so they took the safe bet and gave it a Peacock sequel and series. And while they did consider doing an actual sequel if it was successful, the follow-ups they decided to go with ruined the image and reputation of this property and nobody wanted to see it again. When the show came out, nobody watched it. Nobody cared about Megamind anymore. They had their fill with the sequel and decided to abandon the IP and give other films and shows their attention. It was literally a dead IP. It was a franchise that everybody had lost all hope and excitement in and decided it was not worth their time. And because of that, the franchise faded away and disappeared. Nowadays, DreamWorks doesn't bring it up. That sequel they were considering was never heard of again and any development of any Megamind content is non-existent. The failure of the Megamind franchise really just comes down to the studio behind it and the direction they took with it and the reason behind them bringing it back. If they actually had a creative and passionate drive to make a great Megamind follow-up that expanded the world and took the characters in interesting places and introduced compelling developments and themes for the movie to explore, then Megamind could have been a really successful franchise and could have been among DreamWorks' best. But as it is just another failed attempt to cash in on a movie to make a quick buck and nothing more. It deserved much better as a franchise, and because they botched it so badly, it is very unlikely that this IP will ever get the continuation and expansion it truly deserves, and that is disappointing and sad. Thoughts: the slow death of the Megamind franchise. Anyways guys, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.